Hi, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast. This is season 11, episode 21. I got the episode right this time after two mistakes in the last two podcasts. Apologies to our listeners. Sometimes you lose track when you do this many podcasts in a week. We're still shooting for another 3 this week, hopefully, like we did last week. And the title of this one, and the podcast is brought to you by gp.org, our main site for the delivery of independent Scientology. This is a podcast, always about independent Scientology. We are not affiliated with the corporate Church of Scientology whatsoever, nor do we want to be. And the College of Independent Scientology, which is our online social media platform and online course room. I'm here with Arthur Mudakis, who's been struggling to get his internet situated and everything, and we think we've got it in place. And the omnipresent Quentin Stroud. How are you guys this afternoon there in Malaysia?
Very good. Yeah, we're both here now.
Good.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
This will
Better.
be yeah, it's really nice here too, even though we're towards the latter part of winter.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a podcast on you're doing too much. And this will be a fun one. We've already been giggling about it before we started. So you're doing too much. So Quentin, do you want to take the lead on this one? Because you might be able to do it better than I can, but I'd be happy to do it. It's your call.
Well, talk to them about how you guys kind of fell into this conversation.
Well, it occurred over some food, and I thought it was lamb, and I thought, okay, that's an awful lot of effort for what you get out of a lamb chop. So, and then I thought, that's like crab legs. Crab legs is the effort put into the crab legs does not equal the amount of calories that you get out, because there's not a lot of calories. So in crab. So I thought that'd be an interesting podcast, because life is very much like that. And we'll get into the cycles of action and the correct estimation of effort and all of that. But there's a lot more to this than it sounds like. So,
Well, first of all, I just want to start off by saying, lamb chops are delicious and crab is the bomb.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
and
I
I don't
totally
eat
agree.
crab legs. I don't eat crab legs for the caloric intake. I eat crab legs because you dip them in nice garlic butter with some Obey seasoning, and baby, you got something going on for yourself.
And I'm happy to spend a whole day roasting a leg of lamb on a low heat just for that final product.
well, and
That's good.
leg of lamb
Really.
is, there's a better payoff there than there is lamb chops, because you got this fat and this gristle, and then it's just
I love the fat.
and I just cut that
Yum,
stuff
yum.
off, and I just just go for the primary protein there. But that's just me. But it's also like another thing, and you guys, especially being in the I can't use I won't say it. You guys are in the Orient. Is that politically correct, Quentin? Can I use that term?
We're in Southeast Asia.
You're in the
Yes.
Orient.
Okay.
And my biggest beef with Oriental food is when I order Oriental takeout is 20 minutes later I'm hungry, because there's it's rice, it's carbs and all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
so, and granted, it's cheap, but this podcast is about your life and the ROI, the return of investment of effort that you put in. If and that comes down to a lot of things in life where you get what you pay for. But we're not looking at it necessarily from a monetary standpoint alone. We're looking at it from the decisions you make in life and the effort that you put in to life, because you've heard the expression work smarter, not harder. And that is when you pick up a body and you're you're born an infant and everything like that, you have an allotted amount of time. And what is it that, and this could come down to time management, but it's not just time management. It's the decisions the amount of effort that you put in, the pro-survival actions you take, as opposed to the contra survival actions that you take. I've been working with a new PC in Las Vegas, going over the axioms. And every time I go over the axioms, I have like 5 podcasts I think of that we haven't done before. And we're always talking about the Scientology and Dianetic axioms anyway. So, Quentin, over to you. That's the preamble for the whole thing and how this whole thing got started. And then we'll bounce it off of each other and everything. It'll probably be a lot of fun.
So you and I come from a very different background, and for me, I've never really been one to eat for to be full. Like that's like, even when I was younger, I would always eat like, even I remember back in college, I would eat half now and half later. I would always save half a minute. I think you and I talked about this at one point when we went to the Indian restaurant.
Yeah.
I would always eat half now and half later. And so I hear you when you say, "Oh, I'll eat a nice, Asian dish, and I'll be even hungry 2 hours later." Yep, that kind of happens. But I kind of prepare for that. What I'll say is that when we talk about doing too much, we're really looking at what am I putting into anything that I'm doing, right? It could be a work effort. It could be a familial, kind of situation. It could be, obviously what we're talking about when it comes to mental health and spiritual progress. What am I doing to get a gain from this? And what I'll say is that in my journey and my experience, there's these simple pleasures that I tend to kind of gravitate towards, right? Like a nice, like being able to break the crab leg open and pull out the whole piece of meat. Like that's a simple, that's a simple pleasure for me.
It doesn't happen every time. It doesn't happen every time.
Sometimes you gotta dig up in there, but just being able to crack it open and pull out the whole piece, that's a simple play. And I feel like I won the universe, the game of the universe, when I pull out that piece of crab meat, right? but also, in life, like the ability just to be able to laugh. Like laughter is to me a simple pleasure. Mirth, joy. These are simple pleasures, and it's oftentimes we feel like we gotta do a lot to get to that place. We got to do a lot to get, like, I want to just be able to be happy again. And there's this idea that I have to do a lot to get there. And it might not necessarily be true. Sometimes people put so much effort into like trying to figure this whole thing out, and it doesn't have to take that much, in my opinion.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is taught behavior too, because we're taught that you have to, the only way to get ahead is to work really, really hard. So you're already defeated in some sense, because if you're one that doesn't want to work super duper hard, then you're not going to work hard. But then do you have to work hard? And that's the funny thing about it, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is in the Dianetic axioms. I'm trying to find the correct one here. Let's see if I've got it. Gosh, where is it? I have it pulled up here. Bear with me. Here it is. Let's see here.
Before you read it, I just had a small little realization.
Uh-huh.
I think the thing that makes it hard is the lack of understanding towards your future potential goal. So if you don't understand what your goal is, then of course it's going to be hard, because you need to learn. You need to, for example, like let's say you are cooking lamb cutlets, for example. It's an easy goal. It might have a little bit of time attached to it, but it's an easy goal and you know how to do it. So therefore, you're willing to give it that time because you understand the process of cooking a lamb cutlet. Now, let's say you want to succeed in life in another area that you're not quite understanding or well versed at. That's probably where a different kind of effort occurs, a mental effort plus physical effort.
And I found it, and it's axiom 113 of the Dianetics axioms. Reality is the agreement upon perceptions and data in the physical universe. The subtext below it is all that we can be sure is real is that on which we have agreed is real. Agreement is the essence of reality. And then there's also the axiom where he talks about there are three universes. There's mine, yours, and the agreed upon universe that you agree with others on. So when you're looking at the amount of time, because this goes directly to your point, Artie, that one puts into something, it's taught that you have to work hard as opposed to smart. So if you,
pretty much.
if you look at something the way the amount of cycles of action you do when you're younger, and you have a body that's able and capable and can stay up until 4 a.m. and doesn't feel it, and do 2 hours of sleep and you're bulletproof and all of that. They say that what is it? Youth is wasted on the young, kind of thing. And as the body starts to slow down, you start to think, I need to work smarter, not harder, in order to get something done. But you have to be able to have the comparable magnitudes in order to do that, which is personal policy that you've learned usually from your mistakes. Because policy is what you're working off of comparable magnitudes, both with the analytical mind, you as a thetan, and what the reactive mind has, the fixed attention and the resistance that you have of being pushed off a position in space. And I must do this. I must do this. I can't do this. I'm not going to change because this happened or that happened or whatever. And so now you're off course to a certain degree from going straight. Now you're going to the right or to the left. So if you're working harder, you're not correctly estimating the amount of effort that you have to put into something. Go ahead, Quentin. I see you want to say something.
That's right. And I think that Art kind of gave the cheat code a little bit, because he was like, yeah, but if you see the vision, right? If you see the end goal, the end phenomena, if you know what you're pursuing, your goal, then it seems to be easier towards moving towards that. How many of us in life, whether it be a job or whatever, how many of us in life we don't really know our end goal, so we just get up and we do things every day. We go almost on automatic, almost like a routine, that this is life, and it seems to get harder and harder and harder because you're not kind of going at an end goal. When I work with money and when I work with my clients when it comes to money, I always start at the end. What are you trying to accomplish here? What are you trying to accomplish with your finances? What are you trying to accomplish with your goals? And then let's start making decisions. And some of those decisions might feel like feel a little difficult. Like I gotta cut out this or cut out that. I gotta turn off a cable. I gotta do whatever. But if we know the goal, per what Art just said, if we know the goal and what we're going after, it seems to be a lot easier to make those steps towards getting to that goal.
Right. But
and you're willing to put the time into it as well. And that's what's even more interesting about it. Like once you know what the goal is, you're willing to invest extra time or give up other things to create that time once you know. And you're not just going in constant cycles like a groundhog day where you just wake up doing the same thing over and over and over, hoping that, your stats are going to move up when they're just flatlining. They're just sitting still. It's not going anywhere.
Right. And that gets us to axiom 116 in the Dianetic axioms. A self-determined effort is that counter effort which has been received into the organism in the past and integrated into the organism for its conscious use.
So that means future use as well, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a counter effort, a counter intention or whatever that you run into, and you don't let it destroy you, right? That which doesn't kill you make you stronger. You don't let it destroy you. You integrate it. Read that again.
A self-determined effort is that counter effort which has been received. Now let's stop there. This is a counter effort that you've received. I give you an example. I used to sell tennis shoes on the street corner for years. Did really well with it. 200 boxes of tennis shoes, all different sizes. $8,000 days gross income. Okay, but who I was ordering from? I was ordering from people. A couple of them. What would happen is they would order from some company in China, and they would get a container, one of those long 40-foot containers that you see on the ships. They get a container of tennis shoes, and inside it would be stuff they didn't ask for. So they pay. You have to pay for it before they ship the container to the United States. You get it, and the surprise in the Cracker Jack box is you got 300 out of 800 cases of shoe styles that are just fugly. What are you going to do? You got to sell them. So you sell them to your customers, and you do the same thing that your wholesaler did to you, and they would give us shoes that didn't sell, that we paid our wholesale price for. Now, what am I going to do with them? So after a while, I started to realize there were certain people I could deal with and certain people that I couldn't, who were dishonest in selling me stuff I didn't want, which ties up my money, which disallows me to make. And this podcast isn't about money, but in this example, that is the counter effort which had been received. And this also applies to, right off the bat, Quentin, what ethics condition in that situation to a counter effort would you be applying? What condition do you think that would be? Or Arthur?
Probably liability.
Well, that's true. That it could be.
Say danger?
Yeah, there you go. Danger. What's danger? Adopt a firm policy. Make sure that this doesn't happen again.
I was thinking that wholesale is a liability. But yeah.
Well, yeah, that wholesalers. That's right. You have to assign them a liability, but you also, you assign them a condition of liability, and put yourself in a danger condition.
Yeah.
Part of what you're doing is bypass habits and normal routines, which would be, okay, Mr. Wholesaler, my habits and normal routines are, I'm going to assign you a condition of liability. You need to make up the damages. And there were times where I sent them all the shoes back without asking, and said, I sent you the stuff back that I didn't ask for. Credit me with it and send me the shoes that I asked for. So in that situation, a self-determined effort is that counter effort which has been received into the organism in the past, getting shoes I didn't ask for and paying for them. And now what do I do with them as a retailer? And integrated into the organism for its conscious use. Now you know what happened, and you can learn from it, because my whole point on this is cycles of action. How many cycles of action, start, change, stop, create, survive, persist, destroy, do you want to do in the allotted time that you have in your lifetime? The more cycles of action you have to do that takes up more of your time is contra survival to your Dianetic purpose, which is survive. See? So I can do 10,000 cycles of action, or I can do 1,000 cycles of action. How much, and again, we're not using a monetary value on purpose for the podcast, but if you did put a monetary value on it, if I could make 10 times what I make in that 1,000 versus that 10,000, which one would you rather choose? Does that make sense? So what's your return on you're right. Your return of investment on 1,000 cycles of action versus 10,000 obviously is the better investment in your life, but you have to be able to integrate that for your conscious use. Now, go ahead, Quentin. I can see you want to say something. I can't see Artie, but Artie, jump in whenever.
Well, I was going to say that, I've always talked about, I remember this when I was a kid. I used to talk about being efficient. And the word efficiency, it means to accomplish a desired goal using the least resources possible. And so that one of those resources could be your energy, it could be your time, it could be your money, it could be your effort, right? And so accomplishing a desired goal using the least resources possible to do so, right? That's an efficient, whatever process or whatever the thing is, right? That's you being efficient. And so when we talk about you doing too much, is there a way to accomplish the goal of happiness using the least resources possible? Right? Is there a way to get to a place where before you might have been crying or upset about something? Is there a way to get to laughter about it using the least resources possible? Right? And so, what I love about being an independent Scientologist is the ability to have an efficient way to happiness, an efficient way to bring laughter to a situation that might before been very dire and detrimental to you, like changing things. And I love how that axiom you just read about taking a received counter, was it counter um
That
effort
is that
or counter
is that counter effort which has been received into the organism in the past, integrated into the organism for its conscious use.
Right. And so we call that shadow work, right? In other spiritual modalities, call it shadow work. That you receive the counter effort and you receive it into the organism, integrated it for conscious use. And now I can think beyond, hear me, I can think beyond this. I can think beyond, not that problems don't occur in your life anymore, but with auditing, I now understand when something is coming at me, it no longer has an effect on me anymore. I was reading here in Handbook for Pre-Clears. It says the total function of I, in quotations, the total function of I is the estimation of effort.
Yep.
It thinks and plans and resolves the problems of future effort. When I has estimated a needful effort and puts it into action, its impulses impinge against the glandular system switchboard. And it then talks about how it turns emotional impulse into action. And so your whole function of the I that you are, right? The whole function of you is the estimation of effort and taking that and planning and resolving for future efforts. What am I going to do now with this? This has happened to me. This has shown up in my life. I had this incident. I had this moment. I had this counter effort. What am I going to do with that to make better choices, better ways of thinking, better plans, and better resolves, resolve, which means if it comes up again, it's already been solved. It's resolved. It's solved already, right? So if I have a situation in my life and it comes up again in my life, if I've already committed to a resolve around it, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Why are we still talking about this? It's already been resolved. I already know my policy. I already know how I'm gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
Well, and in order for you to get to that point, you would have had to have put time and effort to have that, which in the future will save you an enormous amount of time and effort. So you had to put an initial time and effort to understand that in order to reduce future potential time and efforts in similar situations.
Right. Right. And this and just as a little side rail here, when you're looking at the components of something, the greatest component that you have, the greatest resource that you have by far is yourself. It isn't flour, it isn't sugar, it isn't water, it isn't eggs. It is yourself. Because, and boy, we've covered this, I don't know how many times, but it bears repeating. That is beingness. You need to be your greatest resource. And I highly recommend, it's one of the Coen brothers films. It's called Burn After Reading. It's got Brad Pitt and George Clooney in it. And the cast is just spectacular. And it's basically, it really comes down to there's misinformation that is given, and the CIA has a guy that works for him. I forget the actor's name. And he gets fired from the CIA for the wrong reasons. And then hilarity ensues. And all of these people have their own desires and their own agendas, and they all get crossed over. And at the end of the movie, after all is said and done, the guys are in the office, in the CIA office, and I forget what the guy's name. The actor who played Jonah Jameson in the original Spider-Man is the head officer, and he's like,
I know you're worried about,
yeah, what do we learn from all of this? And the agent that's on the case goes, shit if I know. After 2 hours of watching all this person is dead, that other person has gotten their facelift that they wanted, and they got it out of the CIA because they just wanted to shut her up, and they don't know what in the hell this train wreck was that happened. And what do we learn from all of this? Those are all of these cycles of action that you choose the wrong people, you choose the wrong clients, you choose the wrong this, and you have all these extra thousands and thousands and thousands of cycles of action. At the end, you go, well, what did we get out of this? Well, those are those counter efforts, and that brings us to axiom 117. The components of self-determinism are affinity, communication, and reality, ARC, which equals understanding. Self-determinism is manifested along each dynamic. Now, this is where this comes in even better. 118, an organism cannot become aberrated unless it has agreed upon that aberration, has been in communication with a source of aberration, burn after reading is a prime example of that, and has had affinity for the aberrator. So if look Quentin.
Go ahead, keep talking, because I want to say something.
Okay, 119, agreement with any source, contra or pro-survival, so contra-survival or pro-survival, postulates a new reality for the organism.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which
now
means it doesn't discriminate between good or bad. It doesn't care.
Right.
It'll,
Right. And 120, non-survival courses, thoughts and actions would require non-optimum effort.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting because this is such an amazing spiritual journey. Because it's like you get to a place where you start to see it all just make sense and it all just come together. And the way LRH breaks down the axioms and understanding certain things, like it just clicks. Think about this. So in order for one to be aberrated, one must agree to be aberrated on that thing, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Well, that's right.
Okay. And then, because I'm not looking at it, but I'm just trying to remember what you said. And then it says that in order to be aberrated, one has to have a source of aberration, of affinity communication with the source of aberration, and then have to have some kind of affinity for that aberrative source. Y'all know me. I tell people I like who like me. I like who like me. If you don't like me no more, I don't like you no more. My affinity is completely, I suck it back. I stuck it in. Because as soon as I start getting the fact that you don't, all right, as soon as I start getting the thought that you don't like me, you immediately become an aberrative source. You immediately suck it up. I got my affinity back because I'm not gonna be going crazy because of you. Trust and believe. If I go crazy because of me, that's on me. That's my own stuff. But if I go crazy because of you, that's on you. What they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Right.
Yeah. No, sir, Bob. And so I think it's really important. And even you said it too, Art, that the agreement don't care whether it's a pro-survival or contra-survival agreement.
That's right.
As soon as you go to agreement with that thing or that person or that scenario or that function or whatever, as soon as you go into agreement about it, that then becomes a potential source of aberration. And so you got to be very mindful of where you put your attention and where you put your agreements on. You got to. I don't agree to be crazy because of you. I don't agree to be crazy because of you. No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many times do you make a decision that you think is a great decision and then it turns out really bad? Really, really bad.
Right.
How often does that happen?
And that comes to axiom 121, which is the next one. Every thought has been preceded by physical action.
Mm-hmm. Every thought has been preceded by physical
action. Right. So
does that mean the input, like there's some information required in order for you to make future decisions? So something has to occur before you can make a future decision.
Right. Because you think, well, wait a minute. The last time I ordered tennis shoes, I got 100 cases of shoes I couldn't do anything with. They wouldn't sell and nobody wanted. I can't even sell them at cost and make my money back. So
at that point, you could stop buying tennis shoes or reframe it and get the tennis shoes you're actually after.
Right. Now, the point of this is in the Dianetic axioms is from the viewpoint of you've painted yourself into a corner because I did that, I was wrong, engram. Okay, and you had 100 squares on the floor and you painted one square blue on the floor. And after a while, you've painted 98 squares on the floor. The floor is wet and now you're in the corner and you don't know which way to go because I can't do this, that was an engram. I can't do this, that was an engram. I can't do this. So you get into these unusual solutions in order to achieve a particular result, which means squillions of extra cycles of action in order to get something done because it's a dangerous environment, what have you. And now you're like, okay, so auditing, which is what we do, auditing gets you to change your mind about these things that you made a postulate on at the bottom of an engram chain. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this business anymore because it was so painful. It was agonizing. And I lost all the money that I put on credit to get this business off the ground. 75% of all businesses fail in the first 2 years, as an example. And again, it's not about money, but if you look at this on the tapestry of life, it's all the same way. Go ahead, Arthur.
With that, like at that kind of point, because I'm kind of stuck on the painting yourself into a square, then you could start making really far out decisions and really altering your own dynamic and your own situation in a situation like that. Like using the tiles as an example, you might say to yourself, geez, I wish I could fly. Geez, I wish I had a better way out. You might start altering the reality you're in as well, altering your situations, making really, really poor decisions.
Exactly.
Or making really, really poor fantasies that are not going to help you at all.
That's a really good point too. Like we said in, I don't know, it was a couple podcasts ago, I'll just win the lottery.
Yes. A fantasy.
It's a fantasy.
It has a chance. It has a possibility, but the possibility is minute.
Right.
It's not a way out.
Right. And so that's a no solution, but you do this in life, and you might, out of that 100 squares in the room, you might have 2 or 3 that haven't been painted, and it's like jumping on rocks across a river. I can't make that jump from one rock to the other. How do I get to the other side? Because you're boxed in by all of these considerations to where you have to go way out of your way. Well, I'll just start another business. I can't start my own coffee house business because this, and this. I failed on these things, which is every thought has been preceded by physical action. Now, 122, Dianetic axioms. The mind does with thought as it has done with entities in the physical universe. That comes down to the people you choose to have in your life. What's their tone level? Were they aberrative? Were they pro-survival? That includes yourself as well. Go ahead, Arthur.
What's the saying? You're the sum of the 5 people closest to you.
Yep. So That comes down to people that are surpassing you and say, oh, you can never be a writer, or you can never be a rap star, or you don't have what it takes to be a rap star, or you this and that goes down to that agreement, which causes you to come up with, well, I can't do this because so and so said I can't do this. But that's because you chose to be around that person, which makes you do these unusual solutions. Well, I'll just go work for peanuts and earn a meager living, and I never ever get to achieve my postulates because I bought into the agreement of other people's postulates of what they thought I could do. You buy into the lie, the altar is. And that's why
people do.
Yeah. So axiom 123, all effort concerned with law is concerned with loss. Organisms hold pain and engrams to them as a latent effort to prevent loss of some portion of the organism. That's all those boxes that you painted on the floor. All loss is a loss of motion. I can't do this. I can't do this. That's the loss of motion.
Stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Stuck. So lastly, and then we'll step away from the axioms, the amount of counter effort, axiom 124, the amount of counter effort the organism can overcome, and this is the point of this podcast, is proportional to the theta endowment of the organism modified by the physique of that organism. Excessive counter effort, too much pushback from terminals and the physical universe, for example, excessive counter effort to the effort of a life organism produces unconsciousness.
But could we say,
yeah,
in a simpler way, that there's a lot of misunderstanding going on, a lot of misunderstoods?
Well,
in order for
false data,
for the organism to propel itself forward,
right?
In the background from its past experiences is an enormous amount of misunderstoods.
Yeah. And it says the corollary, unconsciousness gives the suppression of an organism's control center by counter effort. So unusual solutions equals lots and lots and lots of you're doing too much.
Unusual solutions equal lots and lots of you doing too much.
Could you say that once more, please?
Unusual solutions based off of the suppression that you're receiving, excessive counter effort to the effort of a life organism, you and your body, you plus your body, produces unconsciousness. Therefore, you're unaware of all of these unusual solutions that you're doing. Unconsciousness gives the suppression of an organism's control center by counter effort. Therefore, you're not making the right decisions, the right postulates, the right policy, because you're on your own and you never got an owner's manual to know what you needed to do. And that owner's manual is auditing and training.
Well, and you feel it and one can feel it in their body, they can feel it in their nervous system, they can feel it in their life, where it's like and when he says unconsciousness here, it doesn't necessarily mean that you black out all the time. Some people might not black out, but they might go into a valence. They might go into something else where it's like, wait, who are you? Who am I dealing with here? Right. And so the person whom you love, they've been hit with so much excessive counter effort in their life that it produces unconsciousness in this person. And when that stuff gets turned on, when that unconsciousness hits, they go into a whole other valence and the person starts acting weird. Like, what is up with you?
That's right.
Like, what is this?
And that's an excellent point. Go ahead.
Right. And then what ends up happening is that you're now not dealing with the individual, but you're dealing with what they think is a solution to this counter effort. So we get into an argument, and this person becomes a raging maniac. Right? Raging maniac. And you were like, hold on a second, who you think you're talking to? And so you get into this whole thing, but it's like they think they're winning. They think that that's the solution to this counter effort, right? And it's not. It's an unusual solution. You went crazy for a second, but that ain't the solution to this. You know, we do it the same thing with alcohol. We do the same thing with drugs. We do the same thing with sex. We do the same thing with overeating. We think that's a solution to what you're feeling, but it's not.
Right.
And so when we talk about you doing too much, this is a catch-all kind of phrase, and we kind of say it like little, ha ha ha. But the truth of the matter is, when you look around life, people are doing too much. They're just doing too much. It's way too much for you to have to go through all these mechanisms and mechanizations trying to get happy. When there's a way that could make it an efficient way, go back to that word efficient, it's one of our favorite words, an efficient way to produce happiness in your experience if you were willing to put in that solution, to put that solution into play. And so I just think it's such a interesting way to look at it that we started this thing talking about lamb chops and crab legs, but it's like, but I hearken back to, where do you find the simplest of pleasures? Where do you find the simplest of solutions, of answers in your life? Is it I'm talking about real answers? Is it, drugging yourself into a stupor and you can no longer function properly? Or is it sitting down and really dealing with some of this counter effort that you've experienced in your past that's painted you into this box that you now have to do all these weird things in order to try to get out of it? No, let's put some stuff in place that's going to really work.
Right. And that's putting order into disorder, whether it's a business, whether it's your case, your reactive mind, the composite case on the OT levels, and handling that and dealing with all of those counter efforts that produce unconsciousness. And it could be said that unconsciousness is a reduction of awareness, like we were talking about in the podcast the other day, as far as overthinking and just knowing. And the way to do that is through processing and recovering. Let's say you have 100 attention units. That's just from the viewpoint of like 100%. And before you're born, and you might possess 75 attention units, and 25 are all of the stuff that's in your reactive mind, your case, and all that stuff, if you're lucky. And that there are a lot of things that come into play on that, as far as the composite being the genetic entities that are running your body, the suppression you've received that you've stored as facsimiles in the reactive mind in your case that tell you, thou shalt not do this again. Because at the end of the day, what the reactive mind is doing is it's a policy recorder, but it always records the negative policies and says, okay, I won't do this, I won't do that, I can't do this, I shall be this. Like Quentin said, where you're taking on somebody else's valence, their behavior, the way they go about things, and you're using that to ultimately solve a problem. And that problem is always ultimately survival.
Yes.
So if you're doing that and you're being somebody else, and to the degree that you're happy, which also comes to Arthur and Quentin's point, to the degree that you're happy is to the degree that your ethics are in. And it could be said, go ahead.
No, finish what you're saying.
No. Yeah, keep going.
To the degree, it could be said that to the degree that you are being yourself or not being yourself is to the degree that your ethics are not in. Now, you may not know that because you didn't get an owner's manual when you picked up the body, however many times, or along the whole track or whatever, and you had to just throw something on the wall and see what stuck, and then that didn't work, so you decided to be somebody else. So if you're keeping that being yourself is the solution to handling counter efforts as opposed to being somebody else, now you're at a point where, okay, you're unhappy and you're going to do thousands and millions of cycles of action in this allotment of 75, 90 years or whatever that you didn't have to do. And you're going to get to the end of it and go, what did we learn from all this?
Shit, if I know.
Well, even at the moment, while I'm doing the ProTRs course, like I'm on a section where I've got to do 9 clay demos in a row. I mean, John, how many of those have I been stuck on 4 or 5 times
Oh,
before I've
almost,
passed?
yeah, almost all of them. And so that's a great analogy is if you understand something, you can put it into a clay demo. And then I
And
go,
that's
go ahead.
Yep. And that's where it's been interesting because it's made me realize if I can't put it into clay, then I'm misunderstanding. I still have misunderstoods around it.
Right.
And initially, I've gone through different phases of emotions. No, the first one is, screw this. I want to go have a coffee and a cigarette. This can wait.
This is too much effort.
Well, and it's the nature of the misunderstood, isn't it? It's like, oh my God, this is too hard. But then there's the other part as well. It's like, okay, what am I doing wrong? And then going back over the data, going back over what is the intention for this particular clay demo. And then it's like, oh, okay, I missed that. Oh, I missed that as well. Oh, I also missed that. And then the
Yeah.
clay demo reveals itself.
Right. Because now
Yeah.
you understand it and you know what you need to do in order to present that thing. And
That's right.
how is that? As you look back over the materials and you look and you send me the pictures, and I go, well, I'm not seeing this in the clay. And at your end, you're probably to a certain degree going, fuck that guy. He doesn't see it. I see it.
I
It's
never,
right there.
I've never thought that, John.
And that's the same way with the universe, with the physical universe and the axioms and the
100%.
laws.
Yeah.
Is you're like, well, screw that. I'm not going to do that
Yeah.
because this is just too hard. And instead of finishing that clay demo in the physical universe, whether it's a clay demo or it's something in your life, you're going to go to this unusual solution instead.
Yeah.
And then you try again and you try again. I don't see it in the clay, Arthur. I don't see it in the clay. Show me this,
Yeah,
show me.
that's
And
good
then you
answer.
finally go, bingo. And now you've got it.
Yes.
Same thing
Well,
applies
what's
here.
interesting, the end phenomena that occurs with that, now it becomes no wing to the core, wordless,
Yeah.
wordless. It becomes like the axiom talking about, changing your cells. My cells have changed with that end phenomena. I
Mhm.
cannot be the same once I've reached that point producing a clay demonstration because it's to the cell,
Nice.
which means in future, as well around because I mean, the ProTRs is all about communication and it's a very big course just based on communication. Like, how can I not now apply what I know? It's impossible to not apply.
Mm.
It's impossible for me to not communicate the same way I did before.
Yeah. You have a conceptual
It's impossible.
understanding. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And that effort that it took you, and this happens when we work out our bodies or do whatever. The effort that it took you to get to that goal, to that win, it now is integrated into the organism, right? It's like you said,
Straight
like on
away.
a cellular level, like I know that I know that I know that I know. And you think with it, you think along these lines on a continual basis. And so that's the beauty of training. That's the beauty of going on to the college and signing up for a course and doing the steps that LRH laid out. That's the beauty of auditing, that you take all the counter effort of your life and you face it and you deal with it and then you integrate it and then you think beyond it to a point where now it's like that no longer affects you and you can live a happy life because of that. It's such a beautiful, simple, efficient way of being. I love it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And it does take a little bit of time now to save an enormous amount of time later. Because without going through this process, nothing in me would change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the
I'd still be I'd be producing the same cells. I'd be stuck with the same misunderstoods. I'd still be Arthur yesterday as opposed to Arthur today.
right.
More.
Right. So that's the whole point of this podcast is you could be doing a lot less in order to get a lot further, working smarter, not harder, if you choose the right data to work with, and you choose, and that data, the what you get from auditing, what you get from training, and this isn't just proprietary to Scientology concepts, but it covers everything in your life. That's the point, is if you understand these basics and you can apply them to your existence across your 8 dynamics, those different areas of life, you, yourself, your relationship, your sexual relationship, your group, the planet at large, animals and plants, the physical universe, all that stuff, it carries over. And so you have a lot less counter effort to what it is that you're doing in the future postulates that you make. And you've changed your mind about, I can't do this, I can't do this, I could never do that, I could never talk to this person, and so now you multiply the amount of cycles of action that you have to do, and you spend so much time doing things you don't have to, and you can be happy if you're being yourself. So I hope this has gotten across to our listeners, and we really tried to reduce it down to its building blocks, which can be a little tricky to understand, but we've tried to analogize it as much as we can for our listeners. And take this information, look at the Dianetic axioms, look at the Scientology axioms, and get on course, get in session, and start saving yourself a tremendous amount of time so that you can be productive, thus be happy being yourself, and you can help others along the way. So for Quentin, Arthur, and myself, namaste, and we love you. Bye-bye.
Peace.